Ciao guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to work together on a spreadsheet project that you can replicate in a few minutes and obviously add to your own data analytics portfolio to showcase to your potential employer or a recruiter or whoever is interested in your work. As always, when I work on data analytics projects together, I want to make sure to clarify at the very start of the video why you should stay with me and why you should replicate this portfolio, why it can add value to your portfolio. But before doing that, if you're new to the channel, I'm Lore. I'm a data analytics lead working at a FANG company in London with over 6 years of experience, and in this channel we talk about all things data analytics, so make sure to subscribe if you are interested. Okay, so let's start by saying why you should replicate this project. So the first thing is that this project is based not on toy data, game data, but on real world data. So obviously we're trying to replicate what's happening in the real world. Then the second reason is that we're going to focus, as I said, on a spreadsheet tool. And as you know, in data analytics, spreadsheet tools are super popular in demand. And so always good to have at least one project on a spreadsheet tool in your portfolio. Then the other reason is that I always try to combine at least a couple of skills in the same project. And so apart from showcasing our spreadsheet tools knowledge, in this project, we are also going to use pretty advanced statistical concepts, and you're going to see that in a second. And so again, pretty good project if you want to also demonstrate your proficiency ability to use statistical knowledge as well. And just a bit of a spoiler, we're going to use statistical concepts to build the predictive modeling. And so actually this project will showcase your spreadsheet knowledge, but also statistical knowledge and also predictive modeling knowledge. And lastly is a project that is super easy to explain to recruiters or potential employers. And again, I don't want to spoil it now, but you will see that in a second, but it's pretty much data that we are all familiar with. Okay, so I think these are pretty solid reasons why this project is very powerful. And so without further ado, let's get into the so what of this video and let's start this project together. Okay, so let me firstly give you the context of this project. So we are going to work on a sports related project, and in particular we're going to use football data from Serie A, which is the Italian league. And as I said at the start in the introduction of the video, we are going to use a spreadsheet tool. So as you can see here, I have opened Google Sheet, but you can definitely replicate exactly the same project in Microsoft Excel if you prefer that. And so based on this data, we are going to predict different types of outcomes of games, and again you will see that in just a second. And by the way, if you want to follow along with this file, make sure to check the link in the description to get all the resources mentioned in this video. Now I am in this tab called data source, and which is basically the data that we're going to use for our predictive models. And as you can see here, very simple data. And by the way, even if you're not familiar with football, I think this is pretty easy to follow. So we have the position in the ranking of all the different Italian teams. We have the name of the team in column B, then we have the number of games that they played. So I think I got the data on the 5th of May 2024. So as you can see, some of teams played 35 matches, whereas there are some like the last one, Salernitana, that played 34 matches. So this is not something important, but just to make sure that we notice that as well. And then you have the number of matches that each team won. There was the draw, the losses, and then we have the goals for, the goals against, the goal difference, and also the number of points in the league. And by the way, this is all data that I got pretty easily online. So I actually use this website that is called goal.com. And then when I select Serie A, then I have this data here. Obviously, this is updated because teams here, they played 38 matches. And so the purpose of our project, because we have only 35 matches of data, then we're going to use this data, this historical data, to make prediction of the future matches that obviously have been already played now. So we also know the results and we can then compare our prediction with the actual result. And so next step is to work on these two columns that I added, column K and column L, which is basically trying to give a rating to different teams in terms of their attack and also their defense. And in order to do this, we first of all need to calculate the average amount of goals that each team scored in this league. And so this is what I'm doing in cell G24. So what I'm doing is I'm summing, if I double click, I already made this, but it's a very simple calculation. I'm summing all the goals of all the different teams divided by the sum of the games that were played. And so on average, I can see that each team scored 1.29 goals per match. And so now, as I said, let's calculate the attack rating. So obviously there are different ways to do this, but we want to measure the strength of a team for their attack and defense. And one way to do this, I'm going to use the equal sign to create a formula. I'm going to go for, well, the goal for of that specific team. over the games that they played, and I'm gonna close everything here in brackets, and then I'm going to divide this number by the average goals, and this is the result that I get. And so the rationale of this is that we basically try to get the average of the goals that Inter, for example, scored. So they made in total 81 goals, but the games they played is 35. So we see the average goals scored for this specific team, and we compare it with the average for all the different teams. And so the higher the number and the better is the rating of their attack. And so now we're gonna just replicate the same formula for all the other teams. And so in order to do that, I'm just going to add the $sign on G24, which is the average, because that is not gonna change, whereas the other values we have relative reference so that the formula is updated correctly. So here you see the autofill in Google Sheets. So I can just tick the box and I have the formula now for all the different teams. And in the same way, we're going to do for the defense rating. So we're gonna use pretty much the same formula, but instead of goals for, we're gonna use goals against. So let me drag this formula here and actually correct it. So this one would be C2 and goal against is correct. And then we have the average as well. So this is okay. I'm gonna again do the autofill, and there you go. You have the, we now have the attack rating and defense rating that we're gonna use in just a second. Now, before we move on to the next sheet, which is the predictive model one, I want to show you how we are gonna basically make our life easier when using formulas that are based on this data source tab. And so one thing that I want to do is actually renaming the values that we are gonna use in the formulas. And so as you can see here, not many people know that you can rename ranges of cells in your spreadsheet. And so if you click on here, I already made some references, but what you can see here is that, for example, I have the ATT, which is the attack. So I basically rename all these cells here as ATT, so that whenever I use formulas, instead of selecting all of these in case I need them, I can only write ATT in the formula, and the formula will retrieve this data in here. It's super simple to do this, so you can, I'm gonna show you a test that I can do. So let's say that I'm interested only to rename these three values here. So I select these three, and then I click on here, and then I can do test 2, for example, just a random name just to show you. And then there you go. So now when I go to the drop down here and I select test 2, then these three cells are selected automatically. And so what I want you to do is to create this ATT naming for these cells here. Then we also need defense, which is this one here. And then we also need average, which is these average goals in here. And I think we need another one, which is teams, which is basically, yeah, all the teams that we have available. So again, I already did this step, very simple, but in case you're on your laptop, please make sure to replicate these things so that all the formulas will work as well later on. Okay, so now we switch to the predictive model sheet, and as you can see here, I prepare like a very simple template on basically things that we're going to measure in a second. So we have basically, we are gonna give the chance for the user of this simple analysis to select the home team and the away team. Then we're gonna calculate the expected goals for each of the team in the match. Then the probability of scoring X amount of goals, and also at the end, the probability of each goals combination. And we're also gonna retrieve the betting scores in case, you know, someone want to bet in the match, what are the scores and the amount of money that they can win. And so in order to do this, first of all, we need to give the chance, as I said, the user to select from a drop down the home and away team of a match. And so in order to do this, I'm gonna select this cell, and then I'm going to data, and then data validation in here. I'm going to select add rule and criteria, drop down from a range. And in here, I'm actually going to use teams in our as the name of our range. And as you can see, because I named all the teams as teams now, this is something that again make my life easier when I want to select all the teams for our drop down. So I'm gonna click on done, and as you can see here, now I have the drop down here for all the different teams, and for example I can select Inter in here. I'm going to do also a copy paste in here because we also want to select the away team, and in this case let's do Frosinone and versus Inter, and these are the match that we're gonna play around with for now. Okay, so if I want to calculate the expected goals that I'm predicting Frosinone to score against Inter, I'm going to use a formula that I'm gonna explain in just a second. And so basically let me do equal here. I'm gonna select XLOOKUP. I have the question mark in case I don't remember what I need to input in the formula. So first of all, I need to input the search key, which is the name of the team, Frosinone. Then I do comma. I need to select the range in the data source page where the XLOOKUP has to find the Frosinone team. So I'm gonna write teams because that's the name of the range that we defined before. And I want to get the attack value because Frosinone in this case is the home team. Okay, I'm gonna close the bracket. This number here, which is basically the attack of Frosinone, then I'm going to multiply that for exactly the same thing. So I'm just gonna copy paste this part, but actually for Inter, which is the away team. So I'm gonna do C2, and this time because Inter is defending, I'm going to use that. And then I'm going to multiply everything for the average of goals that are scored in all the matches. And this is the result, 0.52. So why do I use this formula here? So basically the rationale is that this formula for calculating the expected goals for each match is basically combining the attack rating of the home team with the defense rating of the away team, and then we adjust everything according to the league's average scoring rate. So this is pretty much the rationale of this formula. And then basically if I want to then check the expected goals that Inter will score against Frosinone, I will do exactly the same, but this time I'm just gonna invert in the formula. So in the formula, as you can see here, I have B2 and then C2, whereas in here I would have C2 and then B2 here, right? Because obviously the positions are inverted. And so let me adjust the border here that got lost while I was doing the copy paste. And so yeah, the final result here is that for this game, Frosinone versus Inter, we expect Frosinone to score 0.52 goals, whereas Inter to score 3.23 based on the strength of attack and defense that we calculated before. And obviously, I can change the team name in here and obviously select whatever I'm interested in. And just to make sure that our formula works, for example, this 0.52, if I go back to the data source, I calculated and just made sure that the formula is working correctly. So basically we calculated the Frosinone attack times the defense for Inter and then times the average goals. And this is 0.52 is the result that we also have in here. So our formula works as expected. Okay, so now we have this result, right? So Frosinone against Inter, Frosinone is expected to score 0.52 goals, which means, well, basically between 0 and 1 goal. But now we want to go a step further and understand actually what is the probability of Frosinone to score 0 goals, to score 1 goal, 2 goals, and so on. So we actually want to give a bit more details in terms of probability for each basically amount of goals that they can score. And obviously we're going to do the same for Inter as well. So how do we do this? We do this using a statistical concept that is called the Poisson distribution. And so the Poisson distribution is a statistical distribution which helps us to model the probability of different outcomes based on historical data and expected performance metrics. And so this distribution is ideal for modeling the number of goals in a soccer match because it is specifically designed to handle events that occur independently over a fixed interval of time, which in our case is the 90 minutes of a soccer game. And so I'm not going to a lot of details about the Poisson distribution. This is kind of the context that I want to give you why we chose this specific distribution, because it's particularly connected to the case of a football match, because it describes events that happen independently of each other at a constant average rate. But in case you're interested to explore more, this is the formula with all the different elements of the formula to get to the final result. And the good thing about our spreadsheet is that we actually have a built-in function that we can use. So if I do equal and then I write Poisson distribution, this is already the formula. So we don't have to write the whole formula ourselves. We can just use this one that is already made. And again, I have the question mark sign to see exactly what I need to input in the formula. Okay, so in our case, the X would be the 0 goals because we want to now calculate the probability of Frosinone scoring 0 goals. So I'm going to select 0 and then comma, and then I'm going to select 0.52, which is the expected goals that we calculated before. And then I'm going to write poles, which is the logical value for our formula. And I'm going to close brackets. Now, before doing the autofill, I also need to block the B3 values, right? Because that's not going to change if I drop the formula down. And then now I can actually do that. Okay, and so basically we've seen all the probabilities. So Frosinone has 59% probability of scoring 0 goals, and then 30% of scoring 1, and so on and so forth, which kind of makes sense connected to our result that we got before. And now I'm gonna drag the same formula for Inter as well. Obviously need to change some values in here. So this one here will stay B8 and B3 will become C3 instead. Okay, and then now the next step, which is actually pretty cool, is calculating the probability of Frosinone winning and Inter winning in this match based on the Poisson distribution that we just calculated. So based on basically the probability of each team scoring different amount of goals. And so we need to start from the second cell. So basically Frosinone cannot win with 0 goals, right? So we need to start from the cell below. And in the cell below, let me show you what I'm going to do. Okay, and so to calculate basically probability of Frosinone winning, we can calculate the Frosinone probability of scoring 1 goal, which is this one here, times the probability of Inter scoring 0 goals, which is this one here, right? And then this is basically, if I do enter, this is 1.22. Why? Because obviously, you know, if Frosinone scores 1 goal and Inter scores 0, then Frosinone will win. And then basically we are calculating exactly this type of probability. Now I need to drop down this whole formula, so I need to edit it slightly. So I'm going to do times the sum of, and then I'm going to do D8 semicolon, and I'm going to do like this, and then another $8 like this. Okay, let me see if this is working. So if I drop this down, so let's see, for example, this one here. So this one here, again, Frosinone will win in case they score 2 goals, and Inter can score either 0 goal or 1 goal, right? And that will mean Frosinone will still win. So if I just select here, I'm basically multiplying the probability of Frosinone scoring 2 goals times the probability of Inter scoring either 0 goals or 1 goals. And I do the same for all the different combinations. Okay, so then now I'm going to do exactly the same for Inter. So just copy pasting the formulas and dragging it down. So let's say, let's take another random example. So this one here. So the probability of Inter winning with 4 goals is probability this one here, 17.93, times the probability of Frosinone scoring either 0, 1, 2, or 3 goals. Again, I'm just gonna adjust the borders in here. And so now what we also can do is basically calculating the overall probability of Frosinone winning and Inter winning, and also of a draw. And so in order to do this, I'm going to select this cell here and then equal, and then basically I need to just sum the basically this probabilities here, which are all the probabilities of Frosinone winning, right? So this is the probability of Frosinone winning. I'm going to do the same for Inter, so I'm just gonna drag on the right the formula, and then the draw will be simply 1 minus the sum of these 2, right? Because either one of the 2 is winning, otherwise obviously there is a draw. And so if I sum here, just gonna make sure that it's 100%. And so yeah, this is basically the probability of either of the 2 teams winning. And another cool thing, if we want to replicate the betting scores of this match, we can simply do equal 1 over the probability of Frosinone winning, and we can do exactly the same for the other type of results. And this is exactly what betting companies are doing, right? When they try to calculate the probability of each of the results, type of results, and then they give a score. So basically what this means is that if I bet $1 on Inter winning and Inter actually wins, then I will get $1.13. And if I bet $1 on Frosinone and Frosinone wins, actually I'm gonna get $31.32. Okay, and then the last step is actually calculating the probability of each goals combination. So as you can see here, I put Inter, which is C2, and Frosinone in here, so that again these cells will automatically update in case the user changed the match combination they want to see. And as you can see, we have, you know, goals for Inter from 0 to 10, and also for Frosinone from 0 to 10 as well. And so we want to calculate the probability of each combination. So what is the probability of having 0-0, so a draw, or 1 for Inter and 0 for Frosinone, and so on. And so in order to do that, we need to basically retrieve the probabilities that we calculated before. Here I'm going to do equal, and then I need to do X lookup again. And this time I want to see first of all this value here. So let me actually add the $, because then I'm gonna reuse it to scroll it to the other cells as well. And then the match I want, this is the range of value I want to check. And for Frosinone goes this one are the values that I want to retrieve, and then times, then I need to do another X lookup for inter. So I'm going to select this one here, this time $sign at the start because I will use it later, and then range is the same, and the other range is this time for inter. Okay, and then I can close this formula here, and I have a 2%. Now I just need to add a few $signs in order to use the formulas for the other cells as well. I know there is an easier way to do this, but I don't remember it at the moment for the shortcuts on the Mac. I'm going to use the autofill in here and also dragging this all the way to the right. Let me just fix the borders. So we want no borders and then only the ones outside. Okay. And then also I think we can do a bit of a conditional formatting here. So I'm going to select the range and then click on conditional formatting. We do a color scale. Let's choose this one here, and then yeah, I'm happy with this one, so we can close this. So basically what I've done in here is we have the different probabilities of each goals combinations, also with the conditional formatting. So obviously it's impossible, like very low probability of teams doing 10 goals or something like this, and it seems that the highest probability in terms of goal combination would be this one here, 13%, which means 3 for Inter and 0 for Frosinone. And well, this is pretty much it. So this is kind of the final result of our project. So, we started with historical data for matches in Serie A. We calculated the strength of attack and defense for each of the teams. And then now the user can select different matches. If I select Milan, everything will be updated for Milan against Frosinone. Our example that we used was checking Frosinone against Inter. So we have the expected goals. We have the different probabilities of each goals scored by Frosinone and Inter as well. Then the probability of both teams winning or losing, and also the probability of a draw. And then also towards the end, again based on the Poisson distribution that we calculated before, we have also the exact probability for each of the goal combinations by the two teams. And so now obviously it's interesting to see if our model gives a kind of an accurate result of based on what happened in the Serie A. So I don't know, for example, I can check Frosinone, Inter, Serie A result 2024, and the actual result was Inter winning 5-0 when the match was away. So this was done on the 11th of May. So again, if I go back to our model was predicting the result Inter winning 3-0, and so this was the kind of the highest likelihood for this specific match. But actually, this was the final result, 5-0 for Inter. And there you have it, a very solid project that you can replicate in just a few minutes, add to your portfolio, and then use it in front of recruiters, potential employers in an interview to obviously try to land that job offers that you want. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to my channel because I have a lot of other project videos that I made in the past, and also leave a comment down below and tell me what you think about this project. I will also leave here in the screen some other videos that you might want to check out. I did projects with SQL and Python, for example, that you can follow along and replicate in your own time. And well, as always, enjoy the rest of your day. Ciao for now, and see you in the next one.